All right, thank you so much for staying with Daybreak. Let's start this conversation by looking at the dailies first off. We see on the front page of the Standard and the front page of the Daily Nation as well why Uhuru's men favor a Raila presidency, inspired by the need to build on national unity, push bury historic rivalry, ward off his deputy after their fallout and Raila's wide support base. The president's allies say the ODM leader is favorite for State House. That is on the Standard. On the Daily Nation, Uhuru rattles One Kenya alliance by insisting on a Raila presidency for 2022. President Kenyatta reportedly asked One Kenya alliance leaders to back ODM chief for president in the belief that Mr. Odinga is best placed to trounce Deputy President William Ruto. Atandi, I'll start with you. Is that the position, that Mr. Raila is the best position to trounce Deputy President William Ruto?
Well, I think 2022 elections cannot be based on William Ruto. I think Kenyans have issues that needs to be resolved by incoming government. And therefore, I take issue with the headlines who are trying to insinuate that the elections, 2022 will be elections against Ruto. I think that is not right. And two, I also don't like the way the headlines are trying to suggest that Raila Odinga presidency is something that must be assisted, you know, that he must be assisted by others, like he's somebody who is not capable. And Raila's political history in this country is very clear. He stood for presidency on more than 2 or 3 occasions. And Kenyans know very well that they have, on most occasions, they have voted in Raila Amolo Odinga. So the question that Raila is being favored to become president, I don't think this is right. If we are very honest with ourselves about the political environment in this country and the number of the candidates who are contested, who have expressed interest to run for presidency in 2022, there's no doubt in everybody's mind that Raila is the most competent among them. So I think this is really how we need to direct this debate, so that this debate is not seen as Raila as somebody who is being assisted like a project. Raila cannot be a project. Raila is bigger than a project. Raila is somebody who stood for presidency. He's campaigned. Kenyans know him. Kenyans understood him. Kenyans have voted in him on many occasions. And therefore, for us who support Raila Amolo Odinga push for presidency in 2022, we think that at this juncture, and we could agree with President Kenyatta that the most qualified, the most competent person to take over from him in 2022 is Raila Amolo Odinga. And this should not be seen, and it should never be seen as somebody's project, because I think our enemies would like to paint Raila Amolo Odinga as a project of somebody. This is not the case.
Do you find it strange, though, that the president would then pick Raila as his favorite candidate, and yet he has a deputy president? Does it mean that he made a mistake all these 9 years ago? Having
a deputy president does not mean that he must take over from you. Kenya has had many vice presidents. They never took over from their president. So Moi had various vice presidents. None of them was able to take over from him. So I think President Kenyatta making a decision to support Raila Amolo Odinga is quite in order, because Raila Amolo Odinga also has supported others in the past, including President Kibaki. So there's really nothing that should cause, friction anywhere. I think that if our partners, the OCA partners, the former NASAP partners, are honest, they will know that even in the past, they have allowed Raila to be their boss, So Raila remains their boss. At some point, on previous occasions, Raila has been their boss. So at this juncture, they cannot turn around and say that now we don't think that you can boss us, I think that is not really right.
Okay.
And therefore, the headlines are, I think they are trying to paint Raila as a project, which I'm going to resist.
Okay. Gerald.
Thank you, Trevor, and good morning. Before I make my comment, allow me to congratulate our heroes and heroines who just come from Tokyo Olympics 2020. Apparently, most of them come from my county, and I want to wish them well and thank them for making our country proud. I think during the Olympics, most Kenyans were very excited across the board, and we want to wish them well. And later in the day, I'll be issuing a comprehensive press statement in Parliament buildings to comment on 1 or 2 issues of the just concluded Tokyo Olympics 2020. In quick succession, this is a culmination of handshake. I was among the first legislators to oppose and be suspicious of the handshake. And we always knew it would end up in State House. I didn't know that the President of the Republic of Kenya would call a tribal chiefs meeting at the State House. I wish he would have done in some other hotels or some kibanda. And unfortunately, we have always known that this agenda was driving to create a Raila presidency. And this is the handshake. This is the true meaning of handshake. The issue that we have been glossing over, and I'm happy some of us have been vindicated, because many people say handshake would bring stability, there will be economic prosperity, but now this is the true colors and the true intentions that has been developed in the handshake. And you know, when you see Raila has not declared for presidency, because he's waiting for President Uhuru Kenyatta to endorse him. And now, in fact, these deadlines are generated by NSI's National Intelligence Service, which is government in short. So it is these headlines are sponsored by the government to see the reaction, to test how deep the reaction of Kenyans will be. So from where I sit, I think it is coincidence that Raila has not declared for presidency, but it is the state machinery and state government apparatus after the culmination of meeting tribal chiefs in Mombasa State House and wanting Raila to be the president. Number three is that it is interesting. I think you asked my brother Samuel a very interesting question, that why is President Uhuru keen on crossing the fence and endorsing an opposition leader? Yet there are 8.5 million Kenyans, rank and file of Jubilee, that support Jubilee. Even if President Uhuru Kenyatta has fallen out with this deputy, there is people like Kimani Wamatangi, others who are within Jubilee. Why does President Uhuru Kenyatta find it necessary to, in fact, it has never been seen in any mature democracies. Talk about United States, Europe, Africa. We have never seen a president where he abandons his Jubilee party or a party leader, leaves his rank and file of Jubilee and crosses over to another place and looks for a presidential candidate from opposition. But it shows that this process is malicious. It is full in bad faith, because if President Uhuru Kenyatta was not comfortable or was not in good terms with Deputy President William Ruto, there are 8.5 million Kenyans who would have been given that opportunity as a Jubilee is a party. It is not a family affair. If it is a party, it means there are structures, there are leaders within Jubilee. Unless the president is saying he has not been a party, that he has not been appreciating the rank and file of Jubilee. Finally, what I want to say is, of course, we always knew. And as United Democratic Alliance and as the people who support the Ruto's presidency, I want to say that if Raila Odinga runs, is a formidable candidate, and we relish his candidacy. Because, in fact, Trevor, to be honest, and my colleagues is here, you are either with Raila or with Ruto. There is no in between. I'm hearing people saying third force. Those third force are people who will now pray and hope that there will be a runoff, so that either you can negotiate with William Ruto or you can negotiate with Raila Odinga. But in between, you don't survive. So I want to say our formidable opponent, and Kenyans should know, is that we relish an opponent of Raila Odinga candidacy. And all these, my brothers, most of them, we sit them with their colleagues. Two of them, we sit them in the Senate. And I've always told them in confidence that the President and State House project, where state machinery, deep state system, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta will endorse, is Raila Odinga. And we are praying God that he becomes our opponent. We will trash him again for the sixth time. Then we run the government.
Okay. Wamatangi, what do you make of this headline?
Yes, Trevor, good morning.
Good morning.
And let me say morning to our viewers too. Let me begin, Trevor, by two things. First, to eulogize the great hero, George Nthenge. And remember, this is a man who has played a major role in the shaping of politics in this country, especially this new day and new generation politics. And we can't forget the kind of work he's done for us. I also want to join my team, my colleagues here in congratulating our team who came from the Tokyo Olympics, and especially Elliot. You know, he's my hero. He's a gentleman I admire a lot. I'm a marathoner myself, So and he's done proud. You know, I cherish. I see.
I don't know why Cherargei doesn't seem to
I see
believe this.
This is a
Cherargei.
political marathon.
I see Cherargei laughing, and I want to tell him that maybe to your surprise, if you don't know, this year I have a record of doing 54.5 kilometers in 4.5 hours.
Wow, very good.
Wow.
So
That is quite something.
so I'm a marathoner. I will share with you some of my medals.
Accolades.
Now, then getting to this discussion, first, Trevor, I register exceptional discontent and reservations with the comments made by Senator, my colleague Cherargei, in attempting to belittle the role that is going to be played by other presidential candidate aspirants, like this presidential side here.
Tell him.
And you know, we have told Cherargei many times that he's missing the point. He's living in another generation. These elections are going to be a big surprise. And you know, I even saw how on Batandi was there were two, both of them were kind of scoffing at when you're saying that this is the presidential side. Indeed, it is. And let that be known onwards. But we'll prove that point as we get close to August 2022.
Yeah.
You know, the reality of the fact that coalitions is the way to go. And I don't know why we would be making a big deal out of you know, any attempts that have been made to bring people together. This is what everybody talks about. Even William Ruto himself. I mean, when he's been speaking speaking about bringing the country together. That he says that we want to be one country. We don't want to have any political formation or discussion that looks like it is about a community. I mean, those are their words. So what is the big deal? When other political leaders meet in Mombasa in a way to find how they can come up with a common approach to the elections. The elections are in August next year. What was in Mombasa is not you know, an election. Neither was it a meeting to decide on who. I do not think in the first place, and you've not heard it, Trevor, from the president either. You've not heard it from Raila Odinga. You didn't hear it from all those that were present there, that they had met there to decide on who is going to be running in 2022. There's a lot of agenda that those leaders can discuss as national leaders. The only problem that we have is because we are anxious in quickly deciding for and on behalf and creating the hype and psych within the political circle so that we can have something to talk about. That's the problem. So that every time when people meet who are political leaders, then the agenda is drawn by those outside, and not by those inside. I think that there's nothing wrong in them meeting. But then, fast forward from that, the reality of the day, Trevor, is that coalition building in an approach to the elections in the present day Kenya will never be the same again. From the year 2002. I don't know why anyone would be saying that, and I would want to probably ask my colleague, Honorable Atandi, what's wrong? Even if, supposing there was a discussion anyway, although it was not there, that would be saying then that support Raila, what would be the big deal? I mean, why would it be a minus for Raila to be supported? He supported others before. In 2002, he said Kibaki tosha. Kibaki was not deemed to be a project at that particular time. And he ran. You know, I do not think that if they said it is Kalonzo Musyoka, it's a big deal. If they said it is Musalia Mudavadi, it isn't. And they will come to the arena. Remember, Trevor, and this fact we always forget, the buck stops with the voter. It's the Mwananchi who decides. Whatever you say out there, you can do this or that. And I think between now, Trevor, and December of this year, all the way up to February, and you saw the calendar of the election cycle for 2022, up to February next year, the top agenda for this country should be on how are we going to make sure that we have recovered from the losses that we have had to endure as a result of the COVID pandemic and all other factors, including our misbehavior in politics that has costed this country a lot. We have lost so much valuable time politicking, doing things that we're not supposed to be doing other than developing the country. And finally, I want to say that there is no one single person born in this republic who qualifies to be president who should be demeaned. None. Anyone has an equal opportunity to lead this country. Let's stop creating this thing around, this aura around individuals that Trevor, unless it was Raila in 2022, then this country will not move. Unless it was Ruto, this country will not move. Unless it is Musalia, this country will not move. We want to see an Obama scenario in Kenya as we move forward, whereby people can say for once and for all that, yes, we can try and attempt change and, and have a new country. That's also a reality we should embrace. And so, moving from Mombasa to Nairobi, let these gentlemen come, they'll meet us, we'll do what we have to do to build the country. For most of us, our minds are made. And especially as people in government right now, Senator Cherargei is better reminded all the time that he is, until 2022, a member of the ruling party, Jubilee, which forms today's government. And in 2022, he will have an opportunity to join UDA and do all the work. But for the time being, collectively, all of us, they must know that we owe the people of this republic all the promises that we made in Kasarani in 2013 and 2017 until election day. That bill is still out there to be paid by us, who were given that mandate by the people of this country.
All right. That is a warning from your majority whip. But
that's exactly what I was going to remind him. That I hope he has taken note of that warning from his whip in terms of which party he is allegiance. You were not here the other day when we asked him, how come you're in one party but you're advocating for another party?
Yes.
Which doesn't make sense, which is the problem in Kenyan politics. I want to say hello to our viewers and also join my colleagues in remembering the life of one of my people in Machakos, the Honorable George Ndenge, who passed away at the age of 94 from COVID complications. This is a man who had a lot of strength, talked to his family, and they said that he was on oxygen, and they do believe that if it was not for COVID, he was in very good health. He probably would have lived longer. And COVID is taking away a lot of our people, and it's good to talk about what kills our people, so that people know that it is injury. Because if you hide it, people don't realize. I will miss him. He was a great man. He died before I could fulfill a promise I made to him of taking him and his wife on holiday to Mombasa. And then COVID came about, and then there was no movement. So I'm slightly sad about that. He was a big supporter, and he always told me that one day I'll be the president of this country. So in his memory, I want to tell him that I'll work hard to fulfill those ambitions. He was a good man. He was a good man and a liberator, and he fought for the liberation of this country. I also want to congratulate our heroes who performed in Japan, maybe not as well as we expected, and we can do better. And I think Kenya needs to consider looking at a broad-based, a broader participation. We can't just be running or boxing or just volleyball. We need to even do archery. You know, I mean, we've got communities here who are known to be very good with the spear. Our brothers and sisters from Masai land, for example, are very good with the spear. You know, why can't we get people throwing the javelin, many more than just the ones we've had? My community, Ukambani, we have known to be, and also my colleagues also in Meru are known to be very good with archery. You know, we give them a bow and an arrow, and we can fire at a dick, you know, at an antelope, moving, and we still get it. And so why can't we have more of our people trained? So we need to broaden so that we can participate in more sports than just the traditional ones that we've had, so that our people can participate. Eliud Kipchoge, I want to acknowledge, I woke up, I did not wake up, I did not sleep at 1 a.m. to watch him. And I watched him until he won. And the others, you know, and how they performed. And I did not watch him because he's from Uasin Gishu County.
No, he's from Nandi.
He's from Nandi County.
Yeah.
Or that he's Kalenjin. I watched him because he's Kenyan. I didn't care. He could have been a Kamba, he could have been a Matangi here, who is a marathoner, he could have been a Luo. We didn't care as Kenyans. We sat up to watch Eliud Kipchoge because he's Kenyan.
Yeah.
And this is where we forget most of the time. We get into politics, it's all about tribes. But it's not, tribe is not that important. It's our cultural heritage are important. Our cultural heritage are important.
Yeah.
But they should not be everything. Now to the topic of this today, I want to agree with my presidential colleague here that elections are about people choosing their leaders. And they are not just about an individual or another individual. And we've been put in a box whereby it's always about one person or the other. And there's work that has been done, especially our media, which I believe has failed us for a long time because they have tried to push a certain agenda of individuals instead of policies. And that's it's either this one or this one. But as my colleague said, people will be surprised in 2022. We need to have awakening where you realize that all these people have been there. There was a clip I saw last night that was being shown of the president with the leaders in Mombasa, and then it was a clip of Moi, those days, being received at KICC by a very, very young Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, William Ruto, Mudavadi. All these players we are seeing are the same ones who were there about, what, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
The same guys, 20 years ago. And so maybe it's a time for us to wake up as a people and say that it's a time for fresh and it's a time to move on. And I have not heard that the president, I have not talked to him, but I'll find out. I don't think there was any endorsing of Raila.
Absolutely.
I don't know where that's coming from. You know, people can meet and talk, you know, and it's too early to start endorsing anybody. And they talk about coalitions there. As Maendeleo Chapter Party, we have said that we are first going to get our house in order, make sure that we've got our structures all the way on the ground, have our people, and then get the delegates and everything. And then from there, we will decide which coalition we are going to, will join us, not necessarily join them, so we can continue. Raila Odinga has served this country for a long time. He cannot be, you know, disregarded. And this country for a long time, I think we can all agree, owes him. He was detained for a long time. He's worked very hard. He's a man I know personally. He's a good man. William Ruto has also worked very hard for this country. They are leaders. So we need to respect each other because politics is not just about an individual. It's about us. And at the end of the day, as I finish, is that there's a viewer who watches this program. He's called Reverend Felix Komu of ACK. And he always, you know, it reminds me when I talk to him that it's about the track record. What is the track record of these fellas we are seeing there? And, you know, politics changes. And I want to remind Kenyans that all these people you're seeing there have been in different political parties. Do you know that ODM, the founders of ODM were Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka? All these were founders of ODM. I mean, Uhuru Kenyatta has his signature appended as a founder of ODM. Uhuru Kenyatta. William Ruto there with the Pentagon, there as ODM. So, you know, these political parties, they come and go. I mean, I was in Wiper. Others will be Manuel Chap and move to others. Others will be in Jubilee and move to other parties. They were in TNA. You know what I mean? So we can't be lied to that it's only about politics changes, but it's about the track record. Who best can really lead this country? And that's why we want to tell Senator Cherangai and others that watch this space here, because it's not about individuals. It's about the plight of Kenyans. A lot of our young people are home. They are jobless. It's about fixing this country.
Okay.
And the best person to do it.
All right, gentlemen, I want us to move on to
something.
the next topic really fast. Yes.
I think that, Trevor, there are some statements which have been uttered by my colleague here, Senator Cherargei, which needs to be challenged. First of all, I think it is not in order for Cherargei to insinuate that the leaders who met in Mombasa State House were tribal chiefs. I don't think those leaders are tribal chiefs. And all the leaders who met in Mombasa are national leaders, leaders of political parties. And so I think that is really misplaced. Also, he's trying to also to insinuate that the reason why the leaders are meeting in Mombasa and the reason why the headlines are reading that there was a discussion to endorse Raila Amolo Odinga as the presidential candidate for the team, that is also, you know, such a meeting should not have taken place at State House. While we know very well that the deputy president lives in a government building, a government house, and in that place, all manner of caliber of people go there, from, you know, traditionalists, you know, all manner of church leaders, you know, religious leaders. He hosts all manner of people, you know, people who actually, if you want to question, and we have actually questioned. So I think, Cherargei, I think it is not really fair to stop the president from meeting anybody who would like to meet, because we have not stopped you also from meeting all the people you meet at government premise on Karen Road. Thank you.
Okay. A quick reply, because I've been mentioned adversely before we move to the next topic. One is that, you know, I wouldn't, you know, if it works like it's like a duck, then it's like a duck. Out of 43 tribes, why do you make the few tribal chiefs? It is something you can't hide.
Why do you call them tribal chiefs?
Of course, we know what their representation is. Right. Our politics is so ethnicized that when you see so and so, you know what they stand for.
Would you call the deputy president a tribal chief?
No, of course he's a national leader since he's a deputy president. And that is why I'm saying, when you look at the constitution, President Uhuru Kenyatta is the symbol. Any president, not even Uhuru, any president is a symbol of national unity. And therefore, when you see a president, if it was issue of national unity, where was the deputy president? Where was Alfred Mutua? Where was, if you are talking about leadership of the country, we have so many leaders that would have sat on that table. So what it means is that it was not a meeting that was intending on addressing challenges facing Kenyans. It was more of a meeting like a kangaroo, where they were discussing how to fix somebody, how to craft. And you know, these headlines don't lie. Trevor, I've told you these headlines are sponsored. These are NSIs. They are testing how deep the water will go, with the Raila project as the president. Finally, and on the issue of, I've seen my brother saying we're expecting surprises. We are not. Even George Orwell to talk about the animal farm. There are animals who are more equal than others. And Kenya, the way it is, you will not be able to change dynamics. You are either with Raila or with Ruto. And I want to encourage my brother, because I know Kimani Wamatangi, I've seen him on the lineup of gubernatorial aspirants in Kiambu, so we will sort him later. What I want to advise my brother Alfred Mutua, Governor Alfred Mutua, since he hailing for the eye, for the eye, is that he should think through, either to join the Hustler Nation or to join Raila Odinga and be able to be in the next government. Otherwise, we'll allow him to do the oversight on behalf of us when we'll be in government.
Yeah. You guys don't want to move away from this.
Let's move on to the next topic.
But let me be not only clear but safe, because you know, when Cherargei says that they're going to sort me later, so I need to know whether I need to go and write a statement.
No, in a good way.
just to be safe.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something, Trevor,
yeah, on
this discussion, because although Cherargei says that these are sponsored headlines, I don't believe that an institution like the Nation Media Group, or even the Standard, would go and just write you know, stuff like this. And it's a matter of concern. You know, I was trying to look at what is the anchorage of the headline in the Daily Nation. And on flipping over to the page 4, where the main story is, you try to look for the verifiable, articulate source of the information, and you don't find it. I mean, if you read that story, you see what they're saying, that it's the camaraderie between the president and the leader of ODM that is their main reason for having to conclude. I mean, read the story, it is there. You know, they're saying it is believed from multiple interviews. But is there a single interview that you have here, Trevor, yourselves on record, that has the president saying that I've settled on Raila?
No.
I don't think there is. So I think, fine, it is good because newspapers create the debate once they have this kind of headlines, and we have freedom of press. But I think it's also important when we discuss these matters, because they go right into the minds of the people's psyche, and they start creating a certain impression. it is important that we do not divert the minds of our people way too far from what the real issues of today are, because the real issues of today are about the COVID infections that we have and the challenge with the economy and the other matters.
Which you're coming to in just a bit.
Lastly, Trevor, you know, also whether those political leaders met for whatever agenda that we're discussing, we also must be real and candid. That we also need to have a discussion about the political economy of this country. You know, how do politics affect our lives and other people's lives? So I don't think it is also either outrageous, far-fetched, or so contrary that you find that this kind of leaders will be meeting there. They are political party leaders. I would agree with Honorable Atandi that you can't just call them tribal chiefs. I think they have some basis of meeting. Okay. What we would need to do is in 2022 August, you know, Charagay, once you have now finally done, you are finally done with Jubilee, and now you are transitioned to UDA, then I'm sure you'll be getting a good position in UDA.
All right.
Once you have that position, you're likely to be invited to this kind of meeting.
All right. Governor Mutua, I want you to start us off on this next topic. But Dismas Mokua here says, positioning the 2022 presidential race as a binary choice between Raila Odinga and William Ruto is suffocating the Kenyan voter. We should encourage all and sundry to run so that morale is spoiled for choice. Kenyans can see the pavilion conditioning from Tanga Tanga. So there's an uproar over election funding right now. MPs are protesting the finance regulations, saying that it was time barred. Committee on Delegated Legislation is supposed to be probing whether there was unreasonable delay from IEBC. Your race, the presidential race, has been capped at 4.4 billion shillings, out of which you can finance a maximum of 20%, which is about 880 million shillings. What do you make of this whole debate? Because legislators now are saying it's time barred. They don't want the capping. They don't want the exposure of who is funding them. None of it.
I think it's important for us to realize that the capping of politics is important, because we don't want our leaders to be held hostage. But several things. The first thing is this. You see, an election, I had somebody the other day say that election is a process, not an event. But in Kenya, we make it an event. So we wait until the last minute for IBC to be funded. You see, IBC needs to be funded from after an election ends. They need to get very good funding to prepare for the next election. So it's a process. It's not just one event. So that a lot of these things are done with. And then this culture of IBC being seen on the headlines every time, begging, saying we want to be given 40 billion, we've not been given 45 billion, we are not ready. Some of these things should not be there. It should be automatic, that they don't have to beg. It should be part of the budget, such that you have an election year, or every year they know that the allocation to IBC is this one. People can structure and plan ahead. About election funding, I think the members of parliament are just speaking for others who want to spend a lot of money to bribe our voters. You know, our voters have been bribed. You know, people are given 50 shillings, 100 shillings. People are confused, and so people want to spend as much money as possible. And I want to tell our people, and let me take this opportunity to tell our people that we need to be smarter than the way we have been in terms of choosing leaders, because we tend to be confused by bad leaders. Let me give you an example. A leader comes maybe in a constituency, or in a county, or in a place, and or nationally, and he does a very bad job because he strikes deals with the people making roads. So the road is never, is basically washed away after 1 week or several months. So there's no road. Number two, he ensures that only his cronies work at the hospital, whereby all the medicines are removed. The ambulances don't work in terms of healthcare. There is no water, no proper sanitation. Yeye ni mkubwa, anaenda Harambee, anaenda mazishi, anaonekana yuko kwa, lakini the work that is done, yeye amekula hizo pesa. So what happens? A child drinks contaminated water because of lack of water. The child gets very sick. The parents wake up in the middle of the night. There is no ambulance. Wanapiga simu, kuna kaboda boda, they get an old rickety car to take them to the hospital. The car goes to the hospital, inavunjika hapa na pale, but the road is so bad, a journey of 15 minutes takes 3 hours. By the time to get there, the kid is critical. They get to the hospital in the middle of the night. The doctor says, I can treat your kid, but you don't have medicine because there's no medicine in the pharmacy. So the kid dies. Then they are mourning at home. This Mheshimiwa, who is the one who has caused them all these problems because we don't choose wisely, comes and says, poleni sana kwa msiba, ni mapenzi ya Mungu, shikeni hii, remove some money, gives it to them. Wanasema haleluya, huyu ndio mtu, huyu ndio anatujali, huyu ndio tapigia kura, huyu ndio mtu. Without knowing that this idiot is the one who has just killed your baby. So we need to move our conversation as a people to see beyond these small handout measures that are there.
Yeah.
And so we have to be smart enough to realize that people have been bribed. So you find somebody gives you 500 shillings. Anakwambia shika 500 shillings, upige kura. So you go and vote for that person. This is a period of 5 years. So that's 100 shillings per year. If you drive that per month, you know, I mean, it's like the person gave you 5 to 8 shillings per month. I mean, your vote is worth that much? Yeah. Is that how small your brain is? Ya kwamba unahongwa na shilingi 5, atumpigie mtu kura, and then baadaye unalalamika. So these caps are important because they need to bring discipline. When you look at even the spending of the presidential campaign, it's very high.
Yeah.
Yes, you can't run. I think for me, I give it a 3 billion is enough to run for president. Because a lot of money is spent on media and other things. But you see, there are people who would like to line people up and bribe. And let me say here, without fear of contradiction, I've seen experiments being done. I saw an experiment being done in Kibera of how you can use money, bring somebody from nowhere, use money, bribe people, get them together, give them money to lure them to vote for a certain person. I was in Kibera campaigning. I saw it. We've seen it in other parts of the country, where it's money that is speaking. Yeah. And because Kenyans are hungry and Kenyans are suffering economically, they tend to lean that way, and they're being taken advantage of. Okay. And so we'll make the wrong choices. Alafu 10 years, 5 years from now, tunakaa hapa tunalilia what is wrong. Okay. That is why some of us have declared that we need a fresh start in this country that really changes how life is.
Okay. Atandi, you are the legislator in this, actually one of the MPs. You people do not want this. Why? Why do you have a problem with the election funding caps?
No. It's not that MPs do not want this law. This law is actually timely. We need it. There's no way there's no way elections financing can happen without regulations. And I think what the MP has disagreed with the IBC on the procedure, on how the laws should be enacted, because the regulations ought to have been sent to Parliament early for parliamentarians to approve before it is gazetted. And you know, this should have been done 1 year. The law says it should be done 1 year before the next election. So actually, it's not that the MPs are refusing. What we are saying is that IBC is the one that is failing to follow the procedure.
But this was submitted in July 2016, to be exact.
No, it was submitted on Thursday.
But you've always had it. It's not something new.
You know, I think, let's be honest, you know, IBC has been moribund, you know, and their engagements with Parliament has not been, you know, it has not been coordinated properly. And I think the failure needs to be directed to the right place, which is IBC. But I also want to add that it is important for Kenyans to determine the amounts of money that is being spent on elections. Yeah. It is not fair that people would just come up with money from sources that are not unknown, that are unknown sources. And then they want to use money to influence elections. This is the reason actually why Kenyans are complaining about the leadership we have. And as a member of Parliament, I want to say that I support efforts in law or otherwise to compel aspirants or candidates to, you know, outline their sources of resources, the amount of money they want to spend in the elections. And this law actually is very good because, you know, if you have more money, you've raised more money for campaigns and you have a surplus, you're supposed to take back the surplus to Treasury and to be used for other purposes. So I think Cherargai is smiling here, but I think the stalemate on this law could have been sponsored by their wing, the wing that is known as Tanga.
Okay, Cherargai.
so that at least, you know, because they are the people who are not, they don't want to be honest. And they don't want to be open about where they are getting their money for campaigns. I hate the idea that somebody would just come up with money 1 week to elections, and then you just use the money to buy people because of the people like the governor Mutua is saying, because the people are in need.
Yeah.
So you just bring money and then you end up being elected. This is really not right. And I want to actually take issue with also members of parliament, because this is really the conversion which should also go ahead to determine also the qualifications to be elected. Yeah. Right now, there's a debate whether MPs should be graduates, and most people are saying no. They're saying, you know, we cannot, you know, stop MPs from, we cannot use education requirements to stop people from being elected. I think it is time that Kenyans decided that for you to be elected, these are the qualifications. You don't need to have a lot of money to be elected. There are many leaders who have transformed nations, and they were not rich people. Okay. So I think this is very fair, and I think I want to urge Parliament that they need to find a way of resolving this issue. Okay. There's no way we are going to have election without law governing expenditure of resources.
All right, Cherage?
From the onset, we'd be lying to Kenyans. We have commercialized politics, and Samuel Atandi is lying through the teeth, and all of us here. In one way or another, we have participated in giving out handouts. So it is not, we can't lie even MCAs at the local level.
I have not.
And that is the Kenyan politics. What we should be doing is how do we cure commercialization of Kenyan politics? From the onset, I am not opposed, neither of my colleagues, as he allegedly says, are opposed to campaign finance rules. You remember these, as we have put it, Trevor, these were rules, the campaign finance rules that were put in place in 2016. I want to agree with Governor Mutua when he says that we have made election as an event instead of a process. Yeah. Fortunately, for 3 years before Kimani Wamatangi and other Jubilee takeovers and hostage takeovers, they whipped some of us from leadership position. Yeah. I used to chair a committee called JAILA, and we used to regularly meet with IEBC. These are some of the issues that IEBC used to raise in our meetings. It is captured in the Senate answered. We have the issue of campaign financing, issues, regulation, the issue of preparedness to the elections for 2022, the issue of audits of 2017 elections. You remember servers were never opened. The audit, there was a report that was presented before my committee and then. Yeah. So the issue is, I would agree with the regulations. We need to cap so that, you know, so that even declare where your donations come from. It is very important as a country, because we wouldn't want where campaigns are being used for money laundering. We wouldn't want where funny characters are donating into your campaigns from the level of an MCA to the president. So I think the only problem is that the IEBC did delay the submissions of these regulations, number one. And then number two, in as much as it was deferred in 2016, this is a new, it was 2016 campaign finance rules and regulations. This, the IEBC now are calling 2020 campaign finance regulations. What IEBC should have done is that when they appeared before the National Assembly on delegated legislation, under Article 118 of the Constitution of Kenya, they should be what we call public participation. So IEBC cannot prove before Parliament that they did a public participation on rules and regulations. Because in as much as you want to cap presidential campaign to be 4 billion, in my own opinion, with the economy and things have changed, the difference between 2016 and 2021 is a big difference. Many things have changed. But I want to agree by saying finally that we should not also use this issue of capping money as a way of saying somebody so and so, you should have money so that you run for any position. Yeah. It should not be a basis. But my only issue is that it should be a basis only to ward off people who want to use illicit money through laundering process of the campaign. Right. But I hope, but I think the issue, Trevor, Kenyans should understand, is that the intention and form is correct. We need campaign finance regulations. But the process in which it was done is illegal, and it should be declared null and void. But now the problem also is that we are only few months, according to Curricular report, we are failing by wayside because it is only few months before the general election. So it means even these rules and regulations, by the time it is gazetted, it is not viable. Okay. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Wind up on this topic so that we take a break and move on to another conversation.
Yes, Trevor. On the discussion about campaign financing and the regulations that IEBC then seeks to implement, First thing that came to my mind when this was a matter of huge discussion, Trevor, is how and where do political parties take the money that they receive from the exchequer for their running of affairs? You know, that is the discussion we must have, because ask yourself, we are spending almost $1 billion plus on this, on funding political parties for the activities, and then a political party receives 500 million. If you wanted to have control over how much is going to be spent, wouldn't the first step being to unbundle, roll out, and extend this law to require that funding for political candidates within a party comes from this kitty? You know what I would be saying if I had the final say on this, Trevor?
Yeah.
Supposing we relooked at this law, first of all, deal with the injustices within it, because I think it was not modeled correctly, whereby you find that parties like Maendeleo Chap Chap would not be getting that funding, and another one party is getting $500 million. I don't think that would necessarily be the way to look at it. There must be other parameters to be introduced to ensure that when you have a registered active political party, there would be a scale that is extended to ensure that within its own functions and size, that political party still gets substantial funding. And such that you would be saying that if KANU, Jubilee, whatever, all those parties have been allocated so much, then give us an expenditure plan. That expenditure plan would require you to have also how many candidates are you sponsoring and how much funding are you having set aside for those candidates. And then you'd then have some sense and format of saying that you can have the reins within your hands of determining how much then that is going to be spent. Otherwise, you see what happens, and this is the reality, Trevor. All this is just hot air. It's just talk. I mean, who will be out there in the field with a calculator, you know, and punching numbers every morning when I wake up to go and campaign in Kiambu and wherever, and Makueni and other places, that this is how much you spent yesterday, this is how much you spent today. I mean, nobody. This is just big talk. At the end of the day, when the day comes, you find people roll out into the field with bags of money in their boots and in choppers and whatever, and start pouring out the money. But if we want to make a trial, in my view, would start there. The second question is this, and I really did not want to agree a lot with the ruling that was given by the judges on the matter that brought a lot of heat in this country. But an issue that came up substantively was the capacity of IEBC. And I think this is a discussion that at the end of the day would need to have with IEBC the way it is currently constituted. Does it have the capacity to deal with issues of urgency about an election that is just around the corner? Because remember, when that judgment was given, at least it was erroneous in some parts, in my view, but there are some parts that one would tend to agree with it. And to the extent that does IEBC seriously have that capacity right now with 3 commissioners to deal with these matters? If you listened to the proceedings yesterday in Parliament, the main issue was on that question of process, but was IEBC sleeping on the job to just run because they want to beat the 12-month deadline to have these regulations enforced and in place. And you might want to believe that it is true. They just woke up and realized that if we go past next month, we will not be within the timeline. And so we want to make sure that we take these regulations out and publicize them. I would be very concerned, Trevor, that moving forward, if this is the trend that IEBC takes, we must make up our minds, especially as political leaders, that it is time to take action and ensure that the process of ensuring that the remainder of the commissioners are in place so that IEBC can function. Lastly, you also have to be real with the numbers. You know, they said numbers don't lie. When you tell Governor Mutua Kimani Wamatangi, that person, that your expenditure is 4 billion to run for presidency.
Yeah.
Where do you expect this money to come from? Where do you expect it to come from? Because, you know, I'm saying this with this in mind, Trevor, the main purpose of introducing these regulations is to, in quotes, have a level playing field. But that again boils down to the same thing about talk. I mean, how do you levelize the field by just introducing numbers and saying that you can only spend 4 billion, and then so at the end of this law, then we have a level playing field. I think more must be done, because one thing that we cannot run away from is that at the end of every election, more than 70% of our elected leaders are in office because of the amount of money they spend. Not because of the agenda, not because of what they can do for the people, not because that they have a robust and a proper manifesto that is clear on what they will be doing for the people of this country when they get into office, but how much money were they able to dish out? Which people did they sponsor? You know, I mean, how much of money did they send out to sabotage institutions? And at the end of the day, that's how decisions of who will be in office are made. If we continue with that trajectory, then what happens is that this money that is used to fund the elections is normally taken from institutions, government coffers, other areas that are useful in the development of the people. And so it has to be repaid back once it has been spent on individuals, because it will then be stolen when people have been elected to recover it and put it back to where it was taken from. And I think we may treat this as a small issue, but it isn't. It boils down to, at the end of the day, what kind of leadership, what kind of governance, which kind of people, where will we be as a nation if we allow that the determinant of how and who is going to be in office is how much is available in their hands to spend. Okay.
I have to take a quick break. When we come back now, we'll talk about reopening the economy. I really have to take a break now, and then we come back, and I'll start with you on the reopening the economy, because that is what ODM sponsors motion seeking to enhance the economic stimulus package. We'll talk about that in just a bit, and also your feedback shortly.